Welcome back. It's your favorite potato, your girl Poe, and today's video is going to be a little different from the usual. Do you ever watch or listen to the news and you just hear a story that piques your interest and you can't stop thinking about it for whatever reason? You just have to learn more, dig deeper, and it's all you can think about. Well, that's what happened to me when I heard about Kouri Richins. She wrote a children's book about death and grief, and it was inspired by her late husband who passed away last year. They had 3 children together. They're 3 young boys. I think the oldest one is 9. And according to Kouri, it's been so difficult and heartbreaking to watch her 3 boys deal with the death of their father. And because she has such a heart of gold and she's so kind and empathetic, she wanted to find a way to help other people. And that's what led to her writing a book with the ultimate goal of helping other children and families. Once her book was published, it was so well received. Parents were raving about it. She was getting 5-star reviews on Amazon. Like, finally somebody wrote a book that isn't a happy topic, but it's so real and it needs to be talked about because children don't know how to deal with death and grief, whether it's a family member, a friend, or a pet, you know what I mean? So people were just loving that there was a book like this out there. And just last month, she was invited to her local news station in Utah for an interview to promote her book. And in the interview, you can tell that she was still grieving her husband. She looked really sad. And watching her look like that made me sad. I was like, oh my God, this poor woman. She's been through so much. It's been a whole entire year after the death of her husband, and she's still mourning. She must have loved him so much, right? Well, imagine the utter shock that everyone in that community felt last week when she was arrested and charged for the murder of her husband, Kouri Richins. Let's start with a little background info on each of them. Eric was born on May 13th, 1982. He grew up with both parents and he had 2 younger sisters. Now, their entire family was actually pretty well known and pretty well liked by everyone in their small town. He graduated from the University of Utah and he actually got married to his first wife. Now, unfortunately, things did not work out and their divorce was super messy. Shortly after the divorce, he started his own company with his friend Cody, and it was called C&E Stone Masonry. Now, Kouri was born on April 1st, 1990. I wasn't able to find too much information on her other than the fact that she has 2 sisters and a brother. She was also very smart. She went to college and got her bachelor's and her master's degree. How did Eric and Kouri meet? Well, they actually met at Home Depot. She was working there as a cashier and he was a frequent customer. And apparently she was super popular with all the guys there. They thought she was so pretty and that she was so smart and so sweet, like the sweetest person ever. So Eric was a little nervous to ask her out, but one of Kouri's coworkers encouraged him to, and so he did, and she said yes.
I introduced them at Home Depot. Kouri and I were the contractor checkout girls there for all the contractors coming in, and Eric was a frequent customer that came in all the time, and he would come in my line all the time, and he'd kind of look over at Kouri, and I says, go over there and check out with her, so they did. It was just so cute, and they finally went out, and from then on, they were like glued to each other, it was perfect, I thought.
Everyone around them viewed their relationship as a fairy tale romance. Their relationship was like the ultimate #goals. Eventually, Eric proposed and Kouri accepted. Now, when they were about to get married, Eric's mom kind of stepped in and she was adamant about a prenup because Eric's divorce with his first wife was so incredibly stressful and traumatizing that his mom just didn't want Eric to have to go through that ever again. So she drafted up a prenup and they both signed it. So I don't know the exact details of the prenup. So basically, should they get a divorce, what is Eric's is going to stay Eric's and what is Kouri's is going to stay Kouri's. Like, no one's getting any money or assets from each other unless someone dies. Eric also had a life insurance policy where he put his wife Kouri and his business partner Cody as his beneficiaries for his part of the business. So Eric and Kouri got married. They had 3 beautiful children together, all boys. They were basically looked at as the perfect all-American family. Cody and Eric's company was very successful, and Kouri wanted something of her own. She eventually started her own real estate company and started flipping houses. She sold multiple luxury homes, but here's where red flags start to show. Red flag number 1, she was starting to rack up them credit card bills. I mean, she was swiping left and right, getting into a whole bunch of debt, trying to flip her houses. Now, that might not seem like a big deal, except for the fact that she was doing this without her husband's knowledge. And oh yeah, the credit cards that she was swiping, they were under his name as well. Red flag number 2, one of the couples who bought a house from her sued her for lying about the conditions of the house. Apparently, there were a ton of problems with the house that the buyers discovered only after they had already purchased the home, and none of these issues were mentioned to them. Red flag number 3, Eric started to notice small amounts of money that were being withdrawn from his account, and he just assumed, oh, maybe Kouri needed this for her business and she just hasn't gotten around to telling me yet. And then it would happen again and again, and then so finally he sat down and added everything up, and it amounted to $100,000. Then in the same year, he caught Kouri trying to borrow $250,000 by forging his initials on documents. It seemed like they were arguing a lot over money, and in the year 2020, they decided that they wanted to go on like a romantic getaway, so they went on a trip to Greece. They were like, we've been fighting so much, we've been so busy with our own businesses and chasing around after 3 kids, like we haven't had time to connect, like all we're doing is fighting. So they go to Greece, and on one of those nights, Eric's sister gets a phone call from Eric. And he's like, hey, I'm really not feeling well and I'm throwing up and I think Kouri might be trying to poison me. And his sister's like, what? What are you even talking about? And he goes, well, I just ate some food that she ordered for me and I got sick right away. Like I'm vomiting my insides out. And his sister goes, I mean, are you sure she would do that? Like that sounds kind of extreme. And he was like, you know what? I'm probably overreacting. And that was that. Now, after the trip, he just couldn't shake that feeling of like, what if she was trying to poison me? So before the end of the year, he drew up a new trust without telling Kouri. So now instead of Kouri, all his assets and his portion of the company and everything would basically go to his sister, Katie. After he made that change, he felt a lot better. And for the next 2 years of their marriage, it went really well. There were no issues, she wasn't getting caught trying to steal money from him, and things were getting back to normal. Until they got into a disagreement about a potential investment property. So basically, there was this massive, humongous mansion on the market for $2 million. Kouri wanted to buy the mansion, fix it up, and sell it for double the price. But Eric was against it. Now, they had a lot of arguments over this because Kouri was like, I know I can do this. I'm going to sell it. We can make $2 million on this. And he's like, no, that is way too risky. I don't think that would be a smart decision. And she got increasingly angry the more he said no. One day, Cody, Eric's business partner, he got a notification from the insurance company saying that Kouri went into the account and removed Cody from his policy and put herself as the only beneficiary. Remember, Eric had put Cody and Kouri as his beneficiaries? By the way, there are so many names that are confusing me. Cody, Kouri, Katie. Anyway, as soon as Cody heard this, he called up Eric and told him what happened. They called the insurance company right back and they were able to remove Kouri from the policy and made it so that Cody was the only beneficiary. So Eric was like, hell no, I'm removing Kouri altogether. We're just going to make Cody the full beneficiary. By now, Eric's 100% convinced that Kouri's out to get him. Like, he's afraid for his life. So he started thinking of ways of how he was going to get the hell away from her. Obviously, he wanted a divorce, but how would he even do that after knowing that she's after his life insurance and money and assets and everything? So he talks to his sisters about everything, and he decides to put his sister Katie on his life insurance policy as his power of attorney. So ultimately, Katie would be the one to decide what happens, not Kouri. Between the end of 2021 and the beginning of 2022, Kouri was looking for some very strong pain medication. She had a sketchy friend who could get them for her, and so she told her sketchy friend that one of her clients was dealing with really bad back pain, so the sketchy friend got her some hydrocodone. 2 weeks later, she contacted her sketchy friend again and asked him to get her some fentanyl. Then on Valentine's Day of last year, she made him a very special Valentine's Day meal, and he got super sick. I mean, he couldn't breathe. He was gasping for air. He started breaking out in hives, and then he called Cody and told him what happened. And then he called his sisters and told them what happened. And he also mentioned he thought Kouri was poisoning him again, and that if he died, that it was Kouri's fault. He found one of his son's EpiPens and took some Benadryl, and fortunately, he survived. Kouri was probably, if I had to guess, really pissed off her plan didn't work, so she contacted her sketchy friend again 2 weeks later and told him that she needed more fentanyl. Eric was still scared for his life. He's on panic mode, so he decided to put in an offer on the mansion, hoping that Kouri would back off a little. He needed to buy more time to figure out how he was going to get divorced and all of that. So he put in an offer. The seller accepted, and he told Kouri that everything would be finalized after they went over all the details and agreed on everything and signed the papers on everything. But the important thing is he put in an offer, the seller accepted, and now they're going to get things moving. So Kouri thought that she was getting her mansion. She was happy. But in the meantime, Eric had already told his family that he was going to eventually have to tell her that he was going to pull out of the deal and he was not going to go through with the purchase. And then a few days later, Eric was found dead in his bedroom. According to Kouri, she and Eric were celebrating the purchase of the mansion, so she made him a cocktail, a Moscow Mule, and they went to their bedroom together. So they're in the bedroom together, she hands him his drink, and all of a sudden, Kouri's like, "Oh my God, do you hear that?" Eric's like, "No, I didn't hear anything." And she goes, "I think I just heard our son. He must be having a nightmare. Let me go check on him. You enjoy your drink. I'll be right back." So she went to one of her son's bedroom, helped him go back to sleep, then she fell asleep for a little bit, and when she woke up and went back to her bedroom, she found Eric unresponsive. She immediately called 911 and told them that she was giving him CPR, trying to save his life, and when the ambulance got there, they pronounced him dead. They brought him to the hospital to figure out how he died, and that's when they found a ton of fentanyl in his system. They found, I think, 5 times the lethal dosage. The very next day, for some reason, Kouri decided to have a mini celebration at her house. She closed the deal on the mansion, so she wanted to celebrate. Well, she invited her in-laws, and Katie, Eric's sister, was there, and they got into an argument at that mini celebration. And that was when Katie told Kouri that Eric had taken Kouri out of his life insurance policy and made Katie the power of attorney. Now, Kouri had no idea, remember? So she saw red, and apparently she hit Katie, like physically hit her. The police were called and it was a whole mess. Kouri decided to file a claim against her now dead husband, Eric, and his sister, Katie. She claimed that Eric shouldn't have been allowed to transfer her shares of his assets without her knowledge, as stated in the prenup. And remember, the prenup stated that if they got a divorce, they wouldn't get anything of each other's. But if someone died, then the surviving spouse would get everything. She also sued Katie for legal fees. I think it was like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Then Katie countersued and demanded an investigation on Eric's suspicious death. Now, during this long investigation into his death, Kouri decides to write a children's book about the grieving process. And it finally got published, I think like 2 months ago in March. And as I said in the beginning of the video, she was on her local news station promoting the book. She said her kids and her late husband inspired her to write the book. She was looking all sad. And people viewed her as this very thoughtful, sweet, mourning wife. Like, poor Kouri, she's so strong, she's such a good mother, taking care of her 3 boys without her husband. Here's a clip of her on the news.
So my husband passed away unexpectedly last year. So it's March 4th was a 1-year anniversary for us, and he was 39. It completely took us all by shock.
Look at her trying to look all sad and shit.
My kids and I kind of wrote this book on the different emotions and grieving processes that we've experienced last year, and, you know, hoping that it can kind of help other kids, you know, deal with this and kind of, you know, find happiness some way or another.
So you actually wrote this book with your children.
I did. Mm-hmm.
And it's only been a year. How did you process and say you go from processing death to I need to write a book and help others?
I just watched the struggle that my kids were going through. And I actually, I went on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and trying to find something that we could use to cope at nights. Nights are the hardest, it seems like, for everybody when, dealing with anything. But I just wanted some story to read to my kids at night. And I just could not find anything. I couldn't find anything that really, suited them or helped them find comfort and peace. And so, I was like, let's just write one. And so, I took things that my kids have said to me this last year and we kind of articulated it and put it into a story and, just have hopes that it will help other kids.
The police were able to find deleted messages between Kouri and her sketchy friend about the drugs she bought. And also her version of what happened to the police didn't really match up. For example, she told police that her phone was being charged while she was asleep with her son. However, they actually found phone activity during that time she alleged to be sleeping. She also told 911 that she performed CPR, but when the ambulance got there, it didn't seem like any CPR was performed. On May 8th, 2023, Kouri Richins was arrested and charged for the murder of her husband, Eric Richins. Her first court appearance will be on May 19th in just a few days. Oh, I also forgot to mention that Eric had a suspicion that Kouri may have been having an affair. Now, I don't know when he suspected that or why. I couldn't find any of that information, but Kouri does have a public Pinterest account. And if you look at it, she has a bunch of boards and one of them is titled Weddings. And it was last updated 23 weeks ago. She got married 9 years ago. So I don't know, maybe she's just obsessed with weddings, or maybe she was planning a career change to become a wedding planner. And she has 304 pins on that wedding board. That's a lot of pins. Well, this is all we know so far. I'm sure more information will continue to come out. But in the meantime, people want to know, why did she kill him, allegedly? We don't know for sure. Was it just for the money? Was this her plan all along? Did she have another reason? Was she having an affair? There's so many questions. People also want to know, why didn't Eric leave that first time in, I don't know, was it 2020? So like 3 years ago when he first suspected that she might have poisoned him. Obviously, things were happening in their marriage for him to even have that thought in the first place. Now, I'm going to be following this case so I can keep you guys updated if you want. And also, I want to know what your thoughts are. What do you think really happened? And why? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye!